You wake up not in a bed, but in a wooden box with lice chewing on your scalp. The smell of stale cabbage, dried dung, and yesterday's sour sweat clings to your nostrils like a second skin. You slept in your only shirt. You've never washed it. There's no soap. There's no water unless you count the brown puddle behind the shed. You blink. It's dark inside. The windows are smeared with grease and soot. The walls cry with moisture. The thatched roof sags. Somewhere in the corner, a rat finishes what little was left of last night's dream. Your mother is already up. She hasn't spoken to your father in 2 years, but they still sleep side by side, wordlessly, like 2 sacks of grain too heavy to move. The rooster screams again. It doesn't matter that it's not dawn. Roosters scream all the time here because they're starving too. You rub your eyes and feel the crust of sleep. Or maybe it's scabs. Flake off. Someone coughs. Harsh. Deep. Someone always coughs. There's no doctor. There's no priest. He died last winter. No one replaced him. No one replaces anyone. The village doesn't change. It just rots more slowly than you do. You pull on your boots. Hard leather if you're lucky. Bark if you're not. Your toes are crooked. Frostbite, maybe? Or a curse. Everyone believes in curses. There are no books here, but everyone believes. You step outside. The ground is either mud or ice, never anything in between. You smell smoke. You always smell smoke. It's from the neighbor's chimney, or from your house, or from the fire in your chest that never goes out. You don't talk about the fire. You just swallow it. The barn collapsed 3 years ago, but you still tether the goat to it because there's nowhere else. The goat is angry. The goat is always angry. Like you. Like your brother who hasn't spoken since the soldiers came. Like your sister who ran away and no one followed. You shovel manure. You feed pigs that eat better than you. You try not to cry because tears are a waste. You don't feel cold anymore. You just stop noticing. Hunger is worse. Hunger is louder. It speaks in your stomach like a demon preacher. It tells you to steal, to kill, to eat things that should never be eaten. You do. You always do. Because you want to live. But you don't remember why. The landlord doesn't come. He sends his man. The man has a whip. He rides a horse with teeth whiter than yours will ever be. He doesn't say hello. He says, "Where's the grain?" You don't answer fast enough. He doesn't hit you. He hits your father. Your father doesn't scream. He just sinks, like wood into water. You pick up the grain sack and it's lighter than it should be. Your stomach turns. You know what that means. Someone stole again. Or the rats. Or the spirits. Doesn't matter. You'll be blamed. You always are. You try to explain. The man doesn't listen. He's already gone. The hoofbeats echo like a curse. Your mother cries in silence. You've never seen her sob. She just folds into herself like paper. You go back inside. The ceiling drips. The icons are black with smoke. The samovar is cold. You pretend to drink tea, but there's no tea. Just hot water and a dream. The neighbor's son hanged himself last week. He left no note. No one does. What would it say? It hurt? You go to the field. You hoe the frozen soil. It's like carving stone. Your hands bleed. You wrap them in rags. The rags are wet. Everything is wet. Even your bones. You hear the wolves at night. Sometimes they come close. Sometimes you wish they'd come closer. You pray. Not to God. He stopped answering. You pray to sleep, to forget, to wake up somewhere else. But you never do. This is the village. This is your life. You were born here. You'll die here. And in between, dirt, smoke, hunger. Silence. You laugh. It sounds like breaking glass. Your friend lost his toe last winter. He boiled it and ate it. You didn't judge him. You envied him. He had soup. The priest used to say suffering brings salvation. He's dead now. Maybe he was right. Maybe he was just cold. Your shirt has holes. Your hands have holes. Your soul has holes. No one fills them. You dream sometimes. Of St. Petersburg, of trains, of bread, of not being afraid. Then you wake up, and the lice are back, and the rooster screams, and the pig kicks you, and your mother doesn't look at you, and your brother shakes, and your father drinks kerosene, and the sky is grey, forever grey, even in spring, even on feast days, even when the flowers bloom. If they bloom, you don't believe in flowers anymore. You believe in mud. You believe in frost. You believe in pain. Because those are real. You know them. You carry them like stones, like bones, like sins. You try to remember your childhood. It doesn't come. Maybe it never happened. Maybe you were born old. Maybe you were born tired. Maybe you weren't born at all. Just shoveled out of the earth like a potato and left to rot. You hear music once a year. A violin played by a stranger passing through. You cry then, quietly, so no one sees. Because crying is weakness. Because crying is dangerous. Because if you start, you won't stop. You'll flood the village. You'll drown the sky. You'll scream until the stars go black. But you don't. You bite your lip. You dig. You eat bark. You whisper prayers. You curse. You bleed. You survive. And the day begins again. There's no road, no doctor, no chance. Just a rut in the earth where wagons sink in spring and freeze solid in winter. Horses limp. Wheels break. Shoes vanish. The mud eats everything. And if you try to leave, the mud will eat you too. The village is surrounded by nothing. No city, no telegraph, no help. Just trees that creak like they're whispering about you. Fields that never yield enough. And a sky so low it feels like it wants to press your spine into the ground. The wind here doesn't sing. It bites. It tears. It strips flesh from fingers and memory from mind. The air is not air. It's smoke, dung, mould, pig stench, and breath from a dozen unwashed mouths trapped under one crooked roof. You were born in that roof's shadow, maybe even under it, on a dirt floor soaked through with generations of tears and urine and childbirth. You don't know what clean is. You don't even know the word. You are 7 and already working. 10 and already stooping. 12 and already coughing blood. The cough won't go away. It's always someone coughing, someone wheezing, someone disappearing. Sometimes it's a child. Sometimes it's a mother. Sometimes it's you. You look around the village and see the same dozen faces you've seen every day since you could see. They look like earth, cracked, sunken, brown, broken. There are no strangers. Strangers don't come here. What would they come for? There's no inn, no church anymore. It burned one winter, and no one rebuilt it. There's only the house of the oldest widow, a woman who lost 5 sons to war and the 6th to vodka. She walks like a ghost now. She is the village memory, and even she tries to forget. Your school was a barn with chalk and a priest who left. Your alphabet ends at survival. You know how to count only what's missing. Flour, candles, hope. Letters, books, fairy tales. They were never yours. You read frost patterns on windows like scripture. You pray to keep the cow alive. You pray the wolves stay away. You pray for anything except what you have. You don't dream. Not really. Dreams are dangerous. They make the walls of the village look closer. They make you notice the bars you live behind. The field is your world. It doesn't care about you. You break your back on it, and it gives you dust. You give it your blood, and it gives you rye. Sometimes, maybe, if the locusts don't come, if the rains don't drown it, if the frost waits. But frost never waits. The seasons here are enemies. Winter kills. Spring deceives. Summer exhausts. Autumn mourns. You mark time in burials, in how many teeth you've lost, in how many friends you don't have anymore. You see your face in the puddle and you think you look like your father. And that terrifies you, because your father is not a man. He is a husk. He wakes, he spits, he drinks, he beats, he sleeps. That's all. You are turning into him. You feel it. The stiffness, the silence, the rage without shape. And your mother? She is not a woman. She is a shell. She mutters. She peels. She cooks with nothing. She hides bruises. She stares at walls like they owe her something. But the walls don't care. Nothing cares. You try to love. You try to feel. But love here is a risk. Love means loss. And everything is already lost. You're 16. Your teeth hurt. Your joints ache. Your belly is always empty. You haven't laughed in 2 years. The last time you did, your cousin died. His horse fell through the ice. The same ice you drink from. The same ice that cracks like bone beneath your feet. There are no doctors. Just herbs and whispers. There is no healing. Just waiting. Just praying the fever breaks. Just pretending when someone vanishes that they went somewhere else. Somewhere better. But no one goes anywhere. There is nowhere to go. The Empire forgot this place. Or maybe it never knew it existed. You have a name, but it's not written anywhere. You have a birthday, but there is no record. You have a life, but no proof. And when you die, you'll be buried behind the shed with no marker and no song. Maybe a priest if one comes. Maybe not. Probably not. There are stories of revolution, of cities, of trains, of people with ideas. You hear them whispered by the wind or in a traveling peddler's drunken tale. But they're not for you. You are soil. You are shadow. You are the silence between centuries. You are the end of a bloodline no one remembers. The village is your prison. It is your world. It is your tomb. You will never leave. Even if you walk, even if you run, the village is inside you. The fear, the filth, the quiet. You speak its language of pain. You wear its uniform of rot. You are the next corpse waiting its turn. And the worst part? You know it. You've always known. The trap wasn't built around you. It was built under you. Inherited. Inescapable. Eternal. And the more you fight it, the deeper it pulls. Because here, in this forgotten grave of empire and mud, survival isn't victory, it's punishment. You stink. Everyone stinks. That's just life. Washing, maybe in spring, maybe if the river isn't frozen, maybe if the mud isn't waist deep and the wind doesn't bite like a dog with iron teeth. The stench is not something you notice anymore. It lives in your nose, in your skin, in your breath. It's the stench of old soup, of pig dung, of mildew, of unwashed flesh, of rot. It's on your mother, your father, your baby brother. It's in your sheets, if you have any. It's in the floor, which isn't really a floor, just packed earth and rodent tunnels and damp straw that's never been changed. You sleep on it. You cough in it. You bleed into it. You are it. Fleas, lice, worms, they're family. They sleep with you. They eat what you eat, your skin. They suck your blood like it's their birthright. And maybe it is. You scratch until your skin peels and then scratch some more. The sores don't heal. Nothing heals. You think about the word itch the way some people think about God. Constant, invisible, inescapable. You have more bug bites than you have coins, more scabs than friends. There is no remedy, no ointment, no doctor. There is only fingernails and pain and shame. And if you scream too loud in your sleep, your father tells you to shut up or he'll make it worse. Your clothes are stitched together from rags, from things your grandmother wore and died in, from sacks, from horse harnesses, from scraps that even beggars wouldn't touch. You wear them year-round. They are always damp, always heavy, always filthy. They smell like fungus and cow piss. There is a hole near your shoulder and another near your soul. The thread is coarse. Your mother sewed it by candlelight, cursing every stitch. She doesn't smile when she mends. No one smiles when they mend. Smiling is for people with time. You don't have time. You have blisters. Your boots are made from dead cow skin. You know this because you helped skin the cow. You cried when you did it, but you were younger then. Now you'd skin 10 more if it meant warm feet. The boots are stiff. They leak. They chafe. One of them has a nail poking through. You ignore it. Pain is a second skin. Sometimes you dream of sandals or slippers like nobles wear. You laugh when you wake up. You laugh because your feet are blue, cracked, blooded. You laugh because your friend lost 2 toes last winter. You laugh because one day you will too. One eye is always swollen. It comes and goes. Infection? Or maybe something bit you. No one knows. No one cares. You try not to look at your face. The mirror is broken and pointless. You don't need a mirror to know you look like someone who's been fighting the earth since birth and losing. Your teeth ache. Your breath is poison. Your back is twisted from lifting, bending, crawling, hauling. You groan when you stand, grunt when you sit, hiss when you move. Your joints are older than your years. Your body was born tired. Your spine is a question mark, and the answer is always pain. There is no concept of health, only degrees of dying. The village doesn't have words for wellness. It has words for cough, for fever, for bad stomach, for slow mind, for gone in the night. You don't see doctors. You see women with rags and boiling water and prayers. Sometimes they spit on the wound. Sometimes they scream at it. Sometimes they bury it. If you break a bone, it stays broken. If you go blind, you stop working. If your leg rots, they cut it off with a saw and 2 men holding you down. And if you die, you're buried behind the barn with a cross made from firewood. People in the village talk about good years, but you've never seen one. Maybe it was the year the barley didn't rot. Maybe the year the wolves didn't come. Maybe the year no one was taken to war. That's a good year. A year where no one was taken, broken, or buried. You hope for one of those. But not this year. This year the fever is back. The river is black with flood. The pigs are coughing. The potatoes grew eyes and teeth. Your uncle can't feel his arms. Your cousin screams at night and hits himself. Your sister bleeds every day, and no one knows why. There is no future, only weather. You eat what you can. Mouldy bread. Soup made from bones. Sometimes bark. Sometimes rats. You don't complain. Complaining is a luxury. You don't ask questions. Questions are dangerous. You don't wish for more. Wishes are for children. You survive. That's the goal. That's the dream. Not thriving, not living, surviving. Holding on until spring. Then holding on until summer. Then holding on until the next plague, the next frost, the next demand from the taxman. Your ribs show. Your eyes sink. You smell like meat, rotten meat. Even dogs don't bark at you anymore. You remember when a man from the city came once. He wore gloves. He had a book. He talked about progress. The village laughed, not because it was funny, because laughter was the only weapon left. He took notes. He left. We never saw him again. He probably wrote about us in a library, called us colourful, called us resilient. He didn't see the girl with a dislocated jaw, the boy missing fingers, the woman who sleeps with her dead baby beside her for 3 nights before burying it. No, he wrote something poetic, but there is no poetry in pus, no romance in dysentery, no dignity in parasites. The pain is constant, in the bones, in the gut, behind the eyes. You forget what it feels like to not hurt. You forget what it feels like to rest, to be warm, to breathe clean. Your shoulders are hunched, your fingers crooked. You drag yourself through each day like a sack of flour half full of nails. When it rains, your joints scream. When it freezes, your blood thickens. When it's dry, your skin splits. You are a puzzle of bruises and scars, a museum of suffering, and no one visits. No one cares. You are not unique. You are not cursed. You are just one of many. A peasant in the Russian Empire. Another body. Another beast of burden. Another name whispered and forgotten. The dirt doesn't care about your dreams. The vermin don't care about your plans. The sky doesn't listen to your prayers. But you keep going. Because what else is there? You dig. You cough. You bleed. You endure. Until one day you don't, and the lice will need a new host. You don't have a job. You have a sentence. You don't clock in. You don't clock out. You wake when it's dark and collapse when it's darker. No wages, no weekends, no escape. Just endless repetition, as predictable as the frost in your boots and the blisters in your palms. You aren't working for money. You're working to avoid death, and even that's not guaranteed. You've never seen a contract, never signed anything. But your blood, your sweat, your breath, they were claimed the moment you were born. Claimed by the land, by the Lord, by history, by fate. You are not a farmer. You are a fuel source, a cog, a tool in someone else's fortune. Fields that never yield enough. Fields that drink your labor like wine and spit out dust. You plow, and the earth resists you like a stubborn animal. You dig, and the stones laugh in your face. The soil is tired, just like you. Decades of underfeeding and overworking have bled it dry. You walk the same furrows your grandfather walked, break the same clumps of frozen ground, chase the same impossible promise of a good harvest. There is no good harvest. There are only less bad ones. Ones where you lose a few children instead of all of them. Ones where you eat bread with bugs instead of nothing. Animals that eat your food. Chickens that steal your grain. Pigs that eat faster than you do. A cow that's always sick but too precious to lose. And mice, thousands of mice. You hear them at night, gnawing. You wake up to find your sack of flour lighter, your roots chewed through, your stores bleeding away one bite at a time. You trap them, you fail, you curse them, you feed them, because in the end, they win. They always win. Rats live longer than hope here. Tools that break your bones. Not figuratively, literally. Your rake handle has a splinter that's buried itself in your palm and festered. Your hoe is cracked. Your axe is dull. Your scythe was sharpened last year by your uncle, who died 2 weeks later from a fever that started in his teeth. Every tool is older than you are. Every tool is a potential weapon. but not against your enemies, only against yourself. Every hour of use bends your back further, ruins your knees more, pulls another scream from your joints. You don't cry. You groan like wood under pressure. Quiet. Constant. You work 18 hours a day and eat like you're in a prison, except a prisoner gets fed. You don't. Not unless the harvest allows it. Not unless your body holds out. Not unless the landlord takes a kind mood. And they never do. Your meal is a ladle of watery soup, maybe some bread if you're lucky, maybe some beet or onion if something survived the rot. You eat standing up. You eat with calloused fingers. You eat in silence. Meals are not celebrations. They are interruptions, brief pauses between one pain and the next. You chew fast because the body needs it and because there's always more to do. You farm a plot of land you'll never own. Your father didn't own it. His father didn't own it. You won't either. The land belongs to the landlord, and you belong to the land. That's how it works. You till it. You seed it. You water it. You weep into it. But when it yields, someone else gets the bread. When it fails, you get the blame. You don't sign leases. You pay in labor, in sweat, in silence. And if you're behind, you pay in lashes, under a sky that never changes, always grey, always heavy. Even the stars are reluctant to look down. The weather mocks you. Spring is flood, summer is drought, autumn is wind that tears the grain from your hands before you can cut it. Winter is death. That's it. Just death. You work through all of it. Through sleet, through flies, through frost that splits the wood and your lips. You keep going, because stopping is dying. You're not farming. You're trying not to starve. That's different. Farming implies a plan, a goal, a surplus. You don't have those. You just have fear. A daily, gnawing, bone-deep panic that this year will be the year everything finally collapses, that the grain won't grow, that the cow will die, that your body will give out before the land gives back, and that no one will care, because they won't. They never have. You're invisible. You're replaceable. The village buries men like you all the time and keeps walking. There's no crop rotation here. No soil science. There's just superstition and hope. You plant where your father did, because he did. You pray over the seeds because what else can you do? You've never seen a newspaper. You've never heard a radio. You don't know what's happening beyond the next ridge. You don't even know how big the empire is, just that you're at the bottom of it, under it, buried alive in it. You dream sometimes. Not at night. There's no sleep deep enough for dreams. But during the day, when your arms go numb and your eyes glaze over, you imagine something. A bakery, a room with 4 walls that doesn't leak, shoes that don't burn your feet, a table with cheese, a meal with meat. But then the wind changes and you're back. The cow moans, the shovel splits, your sister cries again, and the dream slips away like a bird from a broken hand. You're 20 but look 50. You're 50 but feel dead. You've buried siblings, friends, children. The field takes them one by one and never says thank you. You don't mark time by birthdays. You mark it by plagues, by droughts, by when the well went dry, by when the tax collector raised his voice and your cousin disappeared. You don't keep a journal. Your body is the record. Every scar a page, every crack in your knuckles a headline, every cough a chapter. And no one outside this place will ever read it. They'll never know how much you gave for nothing. How much of you went into soil that never paid you back. They'll never see your back bend. Your lips split. Your muscles twitch from cold. Your hands harden into claws. They'll say, the peasants lived simple lives. As if simplicity was a choice. As if misery was a kind of freedom. And you'll keep digging. Keep planting. Keep gasping. Keep dying. Slowly, every day. Until the land finally buries you. And someone else is born into your sentence. Someone else will wake before dawn. And end the day in collapse. Because that's not just work. That's life in the empire. You're 30 and have buried 4 children. You remember each grave, each wrapped body. Each night the wind howled louder than your wife. But not for long. Because crying takes strength. And strength is for work. The first child you buried was your firstborn. A boy. He coughed for 2 weeks, and then went still one morning before the sun rose. You held him. You didn't know what to do. There was no doctor, no priest, just a shovel and some frozen ground. You dug a hole. You put him in it. You said nothing, because what is there to say when the blood of your blood turns cold in your arms, and the rooster is still screaming for breakfast? Your wife is 25 and looks 60. Her hands are raw, her back is bent, her eyes are dead. She doesn't speak much anymore. She whispers to herself sometimes, especially when she's boiling cabbage for the 100th day in a row, or hanging rags over the window to keep the snow from biting through the cracks. You don't hold her. There's no time, there's no privacy, there's no affection, just aching bodies and chores and the stink of too many people in too little space. Her face is hollow. She used to smile. You think? You can't be sure. Maybe that was a dream. There's no love here, only function, survival, exhaustion. You marry because there's no one else to suffer with. That's what a wife is, a co-laborer, a shared burden. You don't fall in love, you fall into necessity. She milks, she bakes, she births, she buries. If she screams during labor, the pigs still need feeding. If she hemorrhages, you tie a cloth and pray. If she can't get up the next morning, you carry her to the stove and hope the heat doesn't kill her. There is no maternity leave. There is no time to heal. She is expected to bleed and stand. And she does. Because that's the deal. That's the life. That's the trap. If a child dies, you grieve for an hour. Then go back to digging. Because the field won't plow itself, and the tax collector doesn't pause for funerals. You cry when no one sees, or you don't. You build a wall inside, a thick, hard, unfeeling thing. Because if you felt everything, you'd shatter like a clay pot in winter, and no one has time to put you back together. The first time you buried a child, the world tilted. The second time it cracked. The third time it dulled. The fourth, you barely flinched. Not because you didn't care, but because you couldn't afford to. You were already behind on your planting. Your family is not a sanctuary. It's a collective of desperation. Your father drinks himself into silence every evening. Your mother prays to saints who never visit. Your brother hasn't spoken since the war. Your sister is 16 and already married to a man twice her age because he has a goat and she was running out of time. Your home is a room. One room. Everyone sleeps there. Your wife, your children, your parents, your grandparents if they're still alive. There's no privacy, no intimacy, no boundaries, just bodies. Too many bodies or has not enough space. Screaming is constant. Babies scream. Women scream. Animals scream. Sometimes the wind screams. Sometimes you do too. But only on the inside. You grind your teeth until they crack. You bite your tongue until you taste blood. Because noise is dangerous. It draws attention, and attention brings shame or punishment, or both. You learned that early, when you were a boy and cried too long after your dog died, and your uncle slapped you into silence. You haven't cried since. Children die all the time. The fever takes them. The winter takes them. The food, or lack of it, takes them. A cough on Monday can be a corpse on Wednesday. They wither like flowers in a snowstorm. You name them. You feed them. You teach them to walk. And then you bury them. And the dirt keeps their names because no one else will. There are no headstones, no epitaphs, just small mounds behind the barn. You remember which one is which by the shape, until you don't, until they all blend together into one long, silent field of grief. And still, you try again. Because not trying means ending. Because the landlord wants more workers. Because the village needs another pair of hands. Because maybe this one will live. Maybe this one will last. Maybe this one will be the one who doesn't disappear before he can speak. You plant hope like you plant potatoes, deep in the soil, far from the frost. And when it dies, you do it again. You must. Because hope is the only thing that doesn't freeze completely. You've never celebrated a birthday. You don't know what a lullaby is. You've never read a fairy tale to your children. You barely speak to them. What would you say? Good morning, I hope you live. You feed them. You warm them. You hold them when the fever spikes. You listen to them breathe and pray it doesn't stop. And when it does, you get the shovel. Again. You wrap them. Again. You dig. Again. The neighbors come. They nod. They say nothing. No one says anything. They've all been here. They've all done this. Grief is a ritual. Familiar. Expected. Forgotten. And after it, chores. Always chores. The cow doesn't care if you're mourning. The stove doesn't light itself. The field doesn't feel sympathy. And when the day ends, you sit beside your wife. Not holding her. Not speaking. Just sitting. Staring into a fire that barely burns. And in that silence, you think, this is family. This is what it means. Not love. Not joy. Just two people who haven't died yet. And maybe in this place, that's enough. Maybe surviving is the closest you'll ever get to peace. Maybe making it through one more day, without burying another child, without breaking another bone, without giving up, is victory. Small, hollow, temporary, but still a kind of victory. And so you sleep. Lightly, uneasily, waiting for the next scream, the next cough, the next hole in the earth you'll have to dig with your bare hands. Because family in the empire is not warmth, it's not comfort, it's not love. Family is exhaustion, screaming, and infant funerals. Family is survival, and survival is all you have. God is distant. Priests are near, and they scare you more. God doesn't walk down the village path with a riding crop and a cold stare. God doesn't mutter Latin that no one understands and demand offerings you can't afford. God doesn't hear your cough or see your frost-bitten fingers. But the priest does. He sees everything. He watches. He judges. He arrives in a black robe that smells of wax and death and speaks of sin in a voice that's quieter than the wind, but twice as cold. You don't look him in the eye. You bow. You kiss his hand. You nod when he says what's right, and you nod again when he says what's wrong, even if you don't understand a word. Because the church is not a refuge. It's a courtroom. And you're always on trial. Religion is fear, not comfort. You don't pray for blessings. You pray that nothing happens. You don't ask for miracles. Miracles come with prices. You don't ask for healing. Healing never lasts. You don't ask to see God. Because what if he looks back? What if he doesn't like what he sees? You pray with your head down, your eyes shut, your words whispered into the cold floorboards. You pray not to be cursed, not to be noticed, not to be chosen. Because in this place, being chosen means being taken. By the plague, by the war, by the wolves, by something worse. So you whisper your prayers like confessions, and your silence like screams, and you hope the heavens are as deaf as they seem. The church tells you what's true, but the old women tell you what's dangerous. The priest talks about heaven, but the babushka in the hut near the woods warns you about the leshy, about the forest bride who steals children with mossy hands, about the spirits that live in the oven and curse your bread if you whistle indoors. She tells you not to sweep at night, not to pour hot water outside, not to look into mirrors after dark. She tells you stories that keep you up and rules that keep you alive. You listen to her more than to the priest, not because you believe in her more, but because her words feel like survival, not salvation. She knows how the world works, not the world in books, but the world with broken roofs and haunted barns, the real one. You don't understand the Bible. It's in a language no one speaks. It's read aloud by the priest, with the rhythm of a curse and the tone of a funeral. You nod, but you don't follow. You cross yourself, but you don't know why. You kneel, but the floorboards bite your knees and the incense chokes you. You remember only fragments: fire, flood, punishment, sacrifice. You remember that God is always angry, that saints are always bleeding, that heaven is very far and hell is always one mistake away. You never imagine yourself in heaven. You don't even imagine yourself dying. You imagine yourself being punished forever, because that's the closest thing you've ever felt to eternity. But demons? You believe in demons. You believe in shadows that move when no one walks. You believe in the thing that pressed down on your chest when you woke at midnight and couldn't scream. You believe in the black dog that crossed your path before your cousin died. You believe in the cold spot in the barn, in the whisper in the well, in the eyes you saw once in the tree line, glowing, blinking, waiting. You've never read a single holy text, but you've buried too many people with their mouths sewn shut and coins on their eyes to doubt the devil. You wear charms. You spit 3 times over your left shoulder. You tie red thread around the cradle. You fear thinking too much, because thought leads to doubt, and doubt leads to danger, and danger leads to the grave. The holy days come, and with them, fear. Fear that you'll mess up the ritual, that you'll kneel too soon, that you'll forget the saint's name, that you'll eat too early or too late, that God will notice. You go to the church because you must, not because you want to. You fast for Lent and eat nothing for days, not because of faith, because of dread. You bow so low your forehead splits on the stone floor, not out of reverence, out of desperation. You light candles and watch the wax run like blood and wonder if this year, maybe, the fever won't come. But it always comes, candle or not, prayer or not. And then you bury another child and light another candle and repeat. Faith is a fog, thick, cold, ever present. You navigate it like a blind man in a bog. Slowly, fearfully, hoping the next step won't be the one that sinks you. You don't read, you don't question, you don't wonder. Wondering is a sin. Thinking is a luxury. The more you think, the more you doubt. The more you doubt, the more you fear. And you already fear everything. So you keep your head low and your thoughts locked behind your teeth. You say, God willing for everything. Even when you plant. Even when you butcher a pig. Even when you sneeze. Because if you don't, something bad will happen. And something bad always happens anyway. But at least you won't be to blame. You make the sign of the cross before walking past a cemetery, before passing a crossroads, before entering the woods, just in case, always just in case. You wear your fear like a coat, heavy, tattered, necessary. And when someone dies, you say they're in a better place. But no one believes that. Not really. You bury them in haste, you cover the mirror. You burn their clothes. You whisper about what they might return as. You don't mourn loudly. Loud mourning draws attention. Attention draws spirits. Spirits bring sickness. Everything brings sickness. And if, one day, you find yourself wondering if any of this is true, if the priest's Latin matters, if the candles do anything, if the demons really wait for you in the dark, you stop. Immediately. Because thinking too long is how you open the door. And in this village, doors should stay closed. Minds should stay shut. And questions should die before you do. So you bow your head. You cross yourself. You eat the black bread. You kneel before the icons. You whisper to the saints. You leave milk for the domovoi. And you try, desperately, not to think. Because in the Empire, faith isn't light. It isn't hope. It's survival through superstition. It's obedience through terror. It's folklore as armor. It's silence as safety. It's fear, the only thing everyone believes in. You're not poor. You're property. You are listed not as a citizen, not as a worker, not as a man, but as an asset, a possession, a living tool with a name and a body that belongs to someone else. You don't rent your land. You are part of it. You are bought, sold, inherited, pledged, exchanged like a wagon or a goat or a bushel of grain. You are born into bondage, and you will die in it, not because you committed a crime, but because your great-grandfather did. By being born to the wrong name, in the wrong hut, under the wrong sky, you are not a person. You are a number in a registry, a head to be counted, a back to be whipped, a stomach to be filled just enough to keep it useful. You're not poor. You're not free. You're a serf, and your master owns your life, legally. The landowner can whip you, and does, for being late, for not bowing deeply enough, for letting your plough rust, for breathing wrong, for no reason at all. And you thank him after, or at least you don't curse out loud, because a curse is a noose, a complaint is a lash, an insult is exile, or worse. His boots are cleaner than your soul. His dogs eat better than your children. His stables are warmer than your house. He rides past you without looking, but you see everything. His coat, his whip, his gold ring, his teeth white like snow you're not allowed to touch. He can rape your wife. And if you fight back, you disappear. No one talks about it. Your wife doesn't speak. She gets up the next morning and makes soup like nothing happened. And you carry wood like nothing happened. And the neighbors nod like nothing happened. Because they've seen it before. It's not rare. It's not secret. It's just life. The landlord's son has your daughter's hair in his fist. Don't say a word. Don't make a sound. There are worse fates. And they all live in your village. He can send your son to war. One morning, a man in uniform rides in, and your boy is taken. You don't get to say goodbye. You don't get to ask why. He's gone. To fight in a war he doesn't understand, in a place he'll never return from. And if he does come back, he'll be missing something. A leg, a hand, his mind. And even then, you'll still owe taxes for him. You'll still owe service. You'll still owe everything. Because war doesn't free you. It just breaks you in new ways. He can take your ox, your last ox, the one that ploughs the field, pulls the cart, keeps you from collapsing. He doesn't knock. He doesn't ask. He just points. And the ox is his. And you fall to your knees. Not to beg. That doesn't work. But because your legs gave out. Because you know what this means. No ox means no plough. No plough means no grain. No grain means no bread. No bread means death. And the master knows this. That's the point. He doesn't take the ox to feed himself. He takes it to remind you. You are not yours. You can't leave. The road ends at the edge of the landlord's estate. And after that, there's nothing. Or worse. There's no money. No maps. No welcome. You were born on this land, and the land keeps you. The law keeps you. The empire keeps you. If you try to run, they find you. If they find you, they break you. Your legs, your spirit, your blood. You can't protest. There's no forum, no court, no vote. If you speak, they laugh. If you shout, they punish. If you scream, they silence. Your voice isn't yours. It belongs to fear. You can't breathe wrong. You learn to be small, to move quietly, to never draw attention. Your entire life is performance, not for applause, but for survival. You bow at the right time. You whisper at the right volume. You kneel even when your knees scream. You lower your eyes even when rage bubbles behind them. Because defiance is a luxury, and you don't have luxuries. You have mud, and silence, and obedience. You are free to obey. That's your freedom. You serve, you pay, you harvest, you bury. You carry water from the river while the master bathes in imported perfumes. You sleep under a leaking roof while his chandeliers glisten. You eat beets and bark while he dines on pheasant. You mend your coat for the 30th time while his mistress orders silks. And if you die from hunger or cold or sorrow, they replace you. Just like that. Another body. Another soul to crush. Another peasant to chain. Your children are born already owned. You hold them and wonder what their future will be. And the answer is always the same. Yours. They will carry what you carried. They will break the same way. They will be used the same way. And the world will not blink. No law will change. No fire will be lit. Because the law isn't written for you. It's written against you. It's inked in blood and sealed with indifference. And even if you hear whispers of reform, they're always far, always slow, always conditional. They say freedom is coming. They say the Tsar will save you. They say you'll own your land. But what does that mean when your stomach is empty, and your wife's eyes are glass, and your son is buried behind the barn, and your back is twisted from 20 winters of labor that only made someone else rich? What is freedom when the habits of slavery live in your bones? You're not a man. You're a tool. You're a beast in a shirt. You're a unit of productivity. You're a number in a ledger. And when you die, you're a subtraction. That's all. And the worst part? You know it. You feel it. But you can't do anything about it. Because even your thoughts, even your rage, feel useless. They can't feed your children. They can't warm your home. They can't change a system built on your suffering. So you wake up, you bow, you work, you ache, you kneel, you bleed, you obey, you survive. Not because you're free, but because you've learned that obedience is the only thing they haven't taken from you. Yet, education? That's a dangerous idea. Not just useless, not just strange, dangerous. You don't learn in the village. You obey, you labor, you survive. Thinking is not part of your daily chores. Thinking is not what keeps the cow alive or the frost out of your lungs. Thinking is what gets you noticed. And being noticed is a problem, especially if you're poor, especially if you're owned, especially if you've got ideas. Ideas are like fire in dry grass, fast, wild, uncontrollable. That's why people fear them. That's why you fear them. Reading is for nobles and rebels. You are neither. The nobles read to rule you. The rebels read to fight them. But you dig, you carry, you starve, you bow. You keep your head low and your hands busy and your mind numb. That's safety. That's the rule. You heard once that the landlord's son went to Moscow to study philosophy. You don't know what that is. You thought maybe it was a kind of soup. Then you heard he came back with different clothes, different words, different questions. Now he's gone again. Maybe in exile, maybe in jail, maybe dead. That's what books do. They fill your head with things that make the world shake, and you with it. Schools, maybe in the city, maybe, but not here. Here, the only school is the field, the oven, the stable, the shovel. Your teacher is your father's silence. Your textbook is your mother's cracked hands. You learn how to tie a knot, how to carry a pail without spilling, how to kill a chicken, how to tell when the frost will come, how to hide pain behind your teeth. You learn these things because you have to, because no one will write them down for you, because if you forget them, you die. You never saw a school. You never saw a desk. You never sat in a chair that wasn't broken. You never held a pencil. You never asked what a pencil was. You never saw a book. You think letters are sorcery. You've seen them once, maybe twice, in a priest's hand or on the landlord's paperwork. Strange marks, like worm trails or curses. They don't make sense. They don't look like words. They don't sound like speech. You don't trust them. Because the people who use them always have power over you. They come with whips, or taxes, or rules. And those letters, those words, are the weapons. They say something's written down, so it must be true. They say it's the law, but you didn't hear it from God. You didn't see it in the sky. You just saw ink on paper and pain that followed. You think, how can something so small control something so big? And you fear them, because you know what happens to people who start asking what they mean. You heard about a man from a village nearby who learned to read, taught himself, hid pages under his mattress, started writing his own words, stories, questions, maybe poems. You don't know. They came at night, took him, said he was stirring unrest. You never saw him again. You never heard what he wrote. But people still whisper, he read too much. That's a warning. That's not a pride. You don't repeat it too loudly. Thinking too much gets you in trouble. Thinking means noticing. Noticing means realizing. Realizing means wanting. Wanting means resisting. And resisting, that's death. So you train your mind to go numb. You work until the thoughts wear off. You sleep until the dreams stop. You fill your head with chores, with noises, with rituals, with fears. You listen to the stories the old women tell. Not because they're true, but because they're safe. You don't think about justice, or freedom, or why the landlord can take your food, and your son, and your ox, and your wife. You just call it fate. That's what you're told. That's what's safe to believe. Writing? That's just showing off. That's for city folk with soft hands and silver spoons. That's for priests and bureaucrats and revolutionaries. Not for you. Not for someone whose hands are cracked and black with soil. You wouldn't know where to begin. What to say. What to write it with. Who to give it to. And why. No one reads letters from peasants. No one cares what a man like you thinks. You could write the truth and no one would believe it. You could write your pain and no one would feel it. You could write your name and still be forgotten. So you live in silence, in oral memory, in the language of gesture and gaze. You pass down stories by word of mouth, like fragile gifts. You tell your children not what the world is, but how to survive in it. You speak in warnings, in riddles, in curses, and you teach them to fear knowledge, because knowledge brings weight. And you're already carrying too much, and still, sometimes, you wonder. Late at night, when the wind is still and the fire has gone low and the stars blink like they know something you don't, you wonder what it would be like to read, to hold a book and understand it, to write your own words, to name your own pain, to think without punishment, to know something no one could take from you. But then a baby cries, or a door creaks, or a cough rattles through the dark, and the thought dies like a candle in the wind, and you tell yourself it's better this way, safer, quieter, smarter not to be smart. Because in the empire, learning isn't for you. Education isn't a right, it's a risk. And in a world where everything can be taken, the most dangerous thing of all is an idea. Nature will kill you without even noticing. Not because it hates you, not because it's angry, but because it doesn't care. It doesn't blink when your bones snap from the cold. It doesn't weep when your baby turns blue in her sleep. It doesn't pause when your crops drown, your roof collapses, your livestock vanish. It just keeps going. Wind, sun, frost, flood. The old gods you thought were long dead are still here. They don't need altars anymore. They collect their sacrifices directly, in bodies, in hunger, in quiet, anonymous deaths no one counts. No one even buries properly half the time. The ground's too hard. Winter kills more than any general. It doesn't need uniforms or orders. It arrives like a king and takes everything. First the old, then the weak, then the strong. Because strength doesn't mean anything when the stove goes cold and the last candle dies, and you're huddled under straw with nothing but your breath and the whimper of your child. The walls don't stop it. The windows don't matter. You can stuff them with rags, with dung, with wood. It gets in anyway. It gets into your bones. Your blood slows. Your mind dulls. And one night, you just don't wake up. And no one is surprised. Wolves steal your chickens. Sometimes your goats. Sometimes your children. They move like shadows. Silent. Fast. Smarter than you think. Smarter than you want to believe. You hear them at night, not howling like in the stories, but breathing, close, watching, waiting for a door to creak, for a fence to lean, for you to forget to tie something shut. And when they come, it's not a battle, it's a disappearance. One moment there is life, the next, bones. Wind rips off your roof. Not once, again and again. You fix it with what you have, bark, straw, frozen mud, and it lasts until the next storm. The wind in the steppe doesn't whisper. It screams, it doesn't blow, it rips. It tears the world apart, one board at a time. It carries snow sideways like knives. It howls through the chimney like a cursed soul. It slams doors, uproots trees, breaks windows that were already broken. You shout to be heard, but no one hears you. The wind wins every argument. Rain drowns your crops. Spring comes, and with it, hope. For 5 minutes. Then the rains come. Too much, too fast, never stopping. The fields turn to swamps. The seeds rot before they grow. You watch as your entire future melts into brown sludge. You can't plant again. There's nothing left. You try to scoop the water away. It laughs at you. It always does. You sink to your knees in it and pray. Not to God, to the sky, to anything. Just let something grow. But it doesn't. The sun burns you. And you're grateful. At first, after winter, anything that isn't cold feels like a miracle. Until it doesn't. Until your skin splits. Until your lips blister. Until the heat dries your well and cooks your brain, and you can't move without feeling like you'll collapse. You work in it anyway. Because the field won't wait. The season is short. If you rest, you lose it. So you sweat, and burn and faint, and keep going, until your shadow disappears and you fall like an animal. You don't fight the elements. You beg them to ignore you. You plead with the sky. You talk to the river. You try to stay invisible. Please, not this year. Please, just enough rain. Please, not too early a frost. Please, let the cow survive. Please, not the hail again. Please, not the fire. Because it happens. One spark, and the entire village becomes ash. No water, no help, just cinders and screaming. You don't fight nature. You bargain with it. You sacrifice to it. You fear it. You think nature is beautiful? Try living in it without boots. Try crossing a frozen field at dawn with open sores on your feet and no socks and the frost cutting through the soles like knives. Try watching your breath freeze in front of your face while you haul water with bare hands that crack and bleed. Try digging a grave in permafrost. Try shivering through a storm with a roof made of sticks and hope. Try hunting in silence, because if the deer hear you, you don't eat. Try waiting for fish that never come. Try sleeping next to your last sack of flour like it's a child. Try waking up to snow inside your house. Then tell me how beautiful it is. You love nature? Nature doesn't love you. It's not a painting. It's not a postcard. It's a god with no eyes, no ears, no mercy. It watches you die and keeps blooming. It floods your field and grows lilies over the graves. It feeds the wolves that eat your calf. It feeds the mold that eats your bread. It feeds the cold that eats your heart. You plant in it. You work in it. You suffer in it. You are part of it. But you are not safe in it. Never. Not even for a moment. And deep down, you know it. You feel it when the wind shifts, when the clouds build, when the birds go quiet. You feel the dread, the silence before disaster, the sense that something old and indifferent is watching, and it's never satisfied. In the Russian Empire, peasants don't fear kings. They fear clouds. They fear creaking wood. They fear smoke on the horizon and frost in July, and the scream of something you can't see. Nature doesn't care about your prayers. It doesn't care about your crops, or your body, or your dreams. Nature just is, and you just suffer in it. And that's the truth. No poetry, no romance, just mud, storm, famine, flood. And you, small, cold, powerless, grateful when it rains just enough, terrified when it doesn't, and always, always, one bad season away from disappearing entirely. Everyone is watching. Everyone is silent. That's how the village works. There are no secrets, only whispers with consequences. You don't speak unless you have to. You don't share unless it's for survival. You don't confess unless you are ready to bleed. The walls have ears, the fields have eyes, the stove remembers. The neighbor's chicken might as well be a spy. Nothing you say stays yours. Nothing you feel stays hidden. Your grief is a public ritual. Your joy is a sin. Your pain is entertainment. Your silence is protection. You learn fast. The more invisible you are, the longer you live. Secrets don't exist. Privacy is fantasy. There are no doors that close all the way. No rooms that muffle sound. No locks that work. No thoughts that are truly your own. You live with too many people in too little space. And every cough, every moan, every sob, every muttered word is a thing others will hear, repeat, reshape, use. You can't hide a wound. Someone will ask why you limp. You can't hide your hunger. Someone will notice how fast you eat. You can't hide your fear. It lives in your eyes. And your eyes are always visible. The only true privacy is in death. And even that comes with visitors, with muttering, with people guessing what really happened behind that door, that barn, that scream. Everyone gossips. Everyone judges. Everyone is scared. The babushkas with their scarves tight and their mouths looser than their morals. The men drinking kvass by the well who pretend not to care but listen to every name you say and how you say it. The women at the river washing clothes and sins together. Words are currency. Gossip is a kind of weapon. Whoever knows the most owns the most. But no one is safe. Not the quiet ones. Not the loud ones. Everyone has a target on their back. And the more righteous someone sounds, the more you suspect their skeletons are louder than yours. You trust no one. Not even family. Especially not family. Because family sees you when you're weakest. And weakness is useful. Your brother remembers that time you stole from the cellar. Your aunt knows who visited you after curfew. Your father knows what you whispered in your sleep. And your mother? She might love you, but she also loves safety. And if the landlord's man offers her a sack of flour to say what you said about taxes, what then? Blood isn't protection. Blood is leverage. The tighter the family, the sharper the knife. A careless word can cost you a life, or a beating. One complaint overheard, one joke misunderstood, one sigh too loud. You said the priest was fat? Now you can't go to confession. You said the landlord cheats? Now you're behind on your payments. You said the empire is cruel. Now you're missing. Or worse, working in a mine, hundreds of versts from home. Language is dangerous. Voice is a liability. You train yourself to speak in safe phrases. You say what's expected. You nod when they lie. You echo the nonsense they feed you because truth is flammable and lies are armor. So everyone walks like shadows, quiet, careful, controlled. You laugh at the wrong time, and they remember. You cry too loud and hoar, and they whisper. You stay silent too long, and they ask what you're hiding. There's no winning, only managing, only delaying, only staying just dull enough to not matter, and just quiet enough to not threaten. You live among people you've known your whole life, and yet you don't know any of them. Not really. Not their true thoughts, not their doubts, not their plans. Because they don't share, and neither do you. You smile at the man who might have stolen your goat. You wave to the woman who may have told the priest what your wife confessed. You carry your grief like a secret weapon. And they do too. Because in this village, friendship is theatre, solidarity is fragile, and loyalty is conditional. There is no justice here, only balance. uneasy, bloody, temporary. You don't go to the priest when someone wrongs you. He already knows, and he already chose a side. You don't go to the elders. They're too tired. You don't go to the authorities. They are the threat. You go to the barn, or the field, or the night, and you wait for it to pass. If it ever does, you don't get apologies. You get silence, or bruises, or favors that must never be mentioned again. Children learn early. They know what to say, what not to say, when to bow, when to smile, when to disappear. They watch their parents get punished for honesty and rewarded for compliance. They understand the code. Obey, repeat, survive. Curiosity is beaten out of them before they can form questions, and if a child asks why, too many times someone slaps them and tells them because that's how it is. The village is a stage, and everyone's performing. But the play isn't about drama. It's about control, about staying in your role, about never breaking character. You are the peasant, the obedient one, the silent one, the one who never starts trouble, the one who never reads, never doubts, never dreams, because dreaming is dangerous, and the eyes of the village are always open. Even when you're alone, you're not alone. The house creaks. The field listens. The road tells stories. You once heard of a girl who said she wanted to leave. Really leave. Not marry, not serve, just vanish. No one remembers her name, or they pretend not to. But her story still circles like a raven, not because of what she did, but because of what she dared to want. So you stay small. You nod, you toil, you bleed, you kneel, you carry water while they carry stories, and you hope, quietly, cautiously, that the next whisper won't be about you. Because in a world where everyone is watching and everyone is silent, the moment you are seen is the moment you disappear. Drafted? That's not a journey. It's a death sentence. You don't get a choice. One day the officer rides in, a man you've never seen before, but who somehow knows your name. He carries a list, and your name is on it. No warning, no discussion, no appeal. He reads it aloud like scripture, and suddenly your life ends. Not with a bullet, but with a word. Conscripted. You stare. Your mother gasps. Your father lowers his eyes because it happened to him too, and he survived. But only just. You're told you'll be a soldier. You're told you'll serve the empire. You're told you'll be gone for 25 years. You don't know what 25 years means. You can't imagine that many winters, that many wounds, that many empty seasons far from home. But they can. That's why everyone goes quiet. That's why your neighbors vanish behind their doors. That's why your mother starts to scream like she's already burying you. Because she is. You get a uniform, a rusty rifle, and a goodbye you never return from. The uniform itches. It doesn't fit. The boots are cracked. The belt is missing a buckle. The rifle might be older than your grandfather, and it jams when it's not supposed to. No one teaches you how to shoot. No one teaches you how to march. They bark at you, beat you, starve you, drill you until your legs swell and your fingers bleed. You sleep in barns, in tents, in mud. Sometimes not at all. You eat whatever they throw at you, gruel, mouldy bread, scraps, and you eat it fast because the others will take it if you don't. You become an animal, and fast. That's what the army wants. Not a man, a beast that obeys. 25 years. That's how long you're forced to serve in the army. A quarter century in a machine that doesn't even know your name. You're not fighting for a cause. You're not fighting for your home. You're not even fighting for survival. You're fighting because you were told to. Because you were taken. Because the Empire decided your body was more useful at the front than in the field. You don't know where you're going. Poland? The Caucasus? Central Asia? You hear rumors of war with Turkey, with France, with God. It doesn't matter. You go where they send you. You bleed where they point. And when you fall, someone else takes your place. No medals. No graves, no songs. Mothers cry like it's a funeral. Because it is. You see it in their faces when the conscription officer arrives. The colour drains, the breath catches, the hands clutch whatever's closest. Bread, broom, baby. You think they're praying. They're not. They've given up on prayer. They're just trying to memorize your face one last time. And you? You don't cry. Not yet. You're too numb. You're still trying to understand how a walk to the well turned into a march to war. But later, in the silence of the barracks, surrounded by strangers with the same hollow eyes, you cry. Quietly. Into your sleeve. Into the straw. Into nothing. Because no one listens here. No one cares. Most men die. Some desert, all disappear. You hear stories of those who tried to run. They were caught, branded, hanged, or worse, sent back to the front without boots. You hear of others who survived. They returned after decades, hunched, limping, silent. Strangers in their own villages, wives remarried, parents buried, houses gone. One man came back to find a fence where his home had been, and a child he didn't recognize calling someone else father. He left again. No one saw him after that. Survival doesn't mean return. It doesn't mean happiness. It doesn't mean freedom. It means you kept breathing while the rest of you died. You fight battles you don't understand, for people you'll never meet, in places you can't pronounce. You see men explode beside you. You see horses scream. You see wounds that fester, limbs that blacken, faces that forget who they are. You learn to fear the silence more than the gunfire, because when it's quiet, that means something worse is coming. And when it does, when the enemy rises from the mist or the cannonballs start to fall, you charge. Not because you want to, because you have to. Because if you don't, the officer will shoot you before the enemy gets the chance. You start counting time in strange ways, not in days or weeks, but in how many men you've seen buried, how many comrades died screaming, how many fingers you've lost to frostbite, how many lice live in your uniform, how many times you've been whipped for sleeping during watch. You forget your birthday. You forget your name. You forget your village. All you remember is the next march, the next wound, the next order. You forget how to be anything but obedient. Sometimes you dream of home, of cabbage soup, of your sister's voice, of the dog that used to sleep beside the stove. Then you wake up in snow, in blood, in pain. You push the memory down. It's safer not to remember, safer not to feel, safer not to hope. Hope is a luxury. Hope gets men killed. You build walls inside your mind, thick, cold, unbreakable walls. That's the only way you survive. 25 years. Think of that. If you're 16, you'll be 41. If you're 25, you'll be 50. If you live, if you last. If nothing explodes or rots or breaks or snaps, most don't. Most are buried, nameless in a trench, or abandoned beside a road, or vanish in foreign mud that eats bodies like the Empire eats souls. They say you serve the Tsar. But the Tsar doesn't know your face. He doesn't know your pain. He never will. You don't serve a man. You serve a machine, a vast, grinding, indifferent machine that turns peasants into soldiers and soldiers into ghosts. And when your time is finally over, if you return at all, you come back to a village that moved on without you, or died without you, or doesn't remember you. You knock on a door, and someone else answers. You look into the fields, and they look smaller than you remembered. You breathe the air, and it smells foreign. You realize the place you fought to return to no longer exists. Not for you, not as you are, because you're not who you were. You're just what's left. So yes, drafted? That's not a journey. It's a death sentence. And the Empire doesn't even send a condolence. Just another list, another name, another boy who doesn't know that the moment he steps away from the village, he steps into a grave. You lie in bed, not sleeping, just not moving. The wind howls through the cracks in your wall like a wolf with no body, just a voice, clawing through the night, making the rafters moan and the shutters shiver. You don't pull the blanket tighter. It's not really a blanket, just a piece of old cloth that smells like smoke and sorrow. And it doesn't help. Nothing helps. Your body is heavy. Not with comfort, but with wear, with rot, with everything the day drained from you and left behind like bones in a butcher's pail. You stare at the ceiling, not at anything, just because there's nothing else left to do. You lived a life no one remembers, not even you. You think back and it's all the same, a smear of days that all look like today. Dirt, cold, scraping, obeying, wincing, surviving. There were no turning points, no epiphanies, just gradual erosion, like stone beneath a drip. You tried once to mark a date, something, anything. But the ink froze and the parchment tore, and your hands bled from the effort. So you stopped. You stopped trying to make it mean something. And now you can't even tell if this is still life or something after. You prayed to a God who never answered. You knelt. You fasted. You crossed yourself until your arm throbbed and kissed the icon until your lips cracked. You whispered until your throat hurt and gave up food, drink, warmth, joy. You begged not for paradise, just for the fever to pass, for the child to breathe, for the ox to stand, for your skin to stop itching and your joints to stop screaming. And what did you hear? Silence. And then more wind. And then another storm. You told yourself the silence was a test. Then you told yourself it was punishment. Then you stopped telling yourself anything. You fought a land that always won. Every step, it resisted you. Every root fought back. Every seed you planted was a wager against death, and most of them lost. You tried to tame it, cut it, plow it, drain it, burn it. It laughed. It swallowed your tools, your time, your fingers. The blizzard didn't care you'd been kind. The frost didn't care you prayed. The mud didn't care your child was sick. It took and kept taking, and you kept giving, not because you wanted to, because there was no other option. You watched others die, quietly, quickly, violently, some with dignity, some with open mouths and empty eyes. You dug their graves if the ground allowed it. If it didn't, you left them for the dogs, or for the snow. You told yourself it was normal. That death was just the neighbor that visits too often. You learned to live next to it, with it, inside it. You lost count of bodies, of years, of reasons, and now you close your eyes, not in peace, but in exhaustion. Your breath is shallow. The room smells like damp wood and old fire and something sweet that might be rot. Your hands twitch from the cold or the memory of labor. Your back aches like the weight of the sky sat there all day. You don't expect rest, just the numb space between agony. You don't pray, you don't hope, you just stop. No one will knock at your door in the morning. There's no door, just a plank and a squeak. No one will miss you. They'll notice the silence, maybe. They'll shrug. He lived longer than most. That's not praise, that's a fact. You lasted. Somehow, in a place that eats people like bread. In a world where the only reward for endurance is more pain. You made it through today. And that's all. You were never free. You were never safe. You were born into servitude, baptized in fear, raised by silence, and married to suffering. The empire didn't care. The land didn't care. God didn't care. But you still existed. You still carried the wood. You still held your child until they stopped crying. You still kissed your wife, though her hands were cracked and her eyes were gone. You still walked into every storm, knowing it would break you, and walked anyway. You are already dead. You just don't know it yet. Death came a long time ago. It didn't strike, it settled. Like dust, it coated everything. The food, the air, the thoughts, the future. You haven't lived in years. You've just moved, worked, hurt, endured. The soul left, the body followed. The name remained. That's all. And now it's night. And the wind howls, and the roof leaks, and your heartbeat slows, and no one comes, no one calls, and there's no legacy, no tomb, no final word, just the final stillness. Congratulations, you survived a day in the Russian Empire. Just one. And that was already too much.